So, we have seen Christie sides in the Indiana Fever just being in like a not great situation. A really not great situation, especially surrounding number 22, Caitlin Clark. And obviously, with the way the WNBA is, Clark isn't going anywhere. But, maybe the losing streak that the Indiana Fever are about to go on could be great for the team. Maybe it actually could be good for the team in hindsight. Before we get on to it, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We're not going to hit 12,000 today. Obviously, the crazy subscriber growth was a lot due to the game between Clayton Clark and Angel Reese, but I'll be streaming the draft tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming the 2 games on Thursday night, the Fever game and the Sky game against the Aces. And yeah, if I wasn't so busy today, I probably would go and stream the Commissioner's Cup final. But if you guys know anything about how the Fever's fixtures are, how their schedule is up to the Olympics, if you want to look at this schedule, they're likely going to be playing, like, they're not going to be a coaching change till the Olympics, but they're playing the Seattle Storm in Seattle. They're probably not winning this game. They're playing the Mercury in Phoenix. I'll say it, they're actually a pretty decent matchup for the Mercury. I think they're not the worst matchup in the world for the Phoenix Mercury, because just the pace that they can play at, it's going to be tough for Brittany Griner to keep up with that. It's going to be tough enough for Taurasi to come up with that, or to keep up with that. So, I don't mind that one. But, yeah, hopefully I will be live for that game as well. I actually may not be playing in a tennis tournament. If I win my first round, I'm not going to be live for that game. But, then they're playing the Aces. They're not going to beat the Aces in Vegas. They're not going to beat the Liberty. Home or away, the Liberty are going to beat them. If you know anything about just the way these two teams play, the Liberty are going to beat them. They should beat the Mystics Indiana. They could be out of the playoff hunt by July the 17th. Depending on how the Sky do, they could be completely out of it. And that could be a really, really good thing for the Indiana Fever. Because if they're out of the playoff hunt, there's no reason to keep this incompetent coach in a job. And you might be saying, oh, sometimes losing is never good. Or losing's never good, losing's never good. I was like, no, losing intentionally is never good. Losing because of an incompetent coach. Sometimes the team, just like when you're tanking, when a team's tanking, you kind of don't want the team to win, but you still want them to put up a fight. You don't want the team to intentionally be losing games. But sometimes winning games can be the single worst thing that ever happens to a club. And I'm a Leeds United fan. You can see right there behind the microphone. I'll move my microphone up. It is a Leeds United champions from 2020. From 2020 autographed jersey. What were we the champions of? We won the championship under Marcelo Bielsa. You see this man right here? This man managed us. One of the worst football managers I've ever seen at the Premier League level. He was just incompetent. He was incompetent. Every team figured him out and we just couldn't stop conceding goals. But he fluked a massive win against Liverpool, and he fluked a massive win against Bournemouth from 3-1 down. So after fluking a win, instead of at the World Cup break, which is the equivalent to the Olympic break, when they just take a 1-month break in the middle of the season, they decided not to fire him. They did not fire him after he was proven to be incompetent because he got a fluky win. And I think that Christie sides, the more games the Fever lose, the more likely she is to be fired at the Olympic break, because she's not going to be fired till then. But if they fire her at the Olympic break, it means whoever the new coach is, because none enough team are going to the Olympics, except for maybe, if Brazil made the Olympics, maybe Dantas. She hasn't even played yet. But none of them are going to the Olympics. None of them are even going 3-on-3. You've got a new coach in to actually put in a system. You've got a team. They can rest. They can work on themselves as a team. They can get better. They'll never get better with her as a coach. Because look, I'm sure she's probably a nice enough person. She's a terrible basketball coach. It is what it is. And if they go on any sort of a winning streak, it's the worst thing that could happen. Because the longer Christie side stays in a job, if she's in that job next year, and people are saying that there's a 0% chance if the Fever, who haven't made the playoffs since like 2015, if for the first time in 10 years they make the playoffs, there's a 0% chance that the coach gets fired. And that's what I'm really, really scared of. That is what I am really, really scared of, is that this team that should be the 5th best team in the WNBA is going to creep in as the 8th seed in the playoffs, maybe due to the Atlanta Dream falling apart. Because, like, they suck too. But like there are only 4 teams that don't make the playoffs. There are 6 teams that suck. Like 6 teams suck. Like I'm sorry, the Chicago Sky suck. The Indiana Fever suck. Like that was a game between 2 bad teams. As great as it was to watch, both of these teams are bad. Brighter future for Indiana. Actually, you know what? Kennedy Carter's still quite young, so depending on how she gets on behavior-wise, she seems to be really enjoying it in Chicago. They could be a really nice team, but if things start going wrong and you've got players like Mabry and Carter on that team that could fight anyone at any given time, that team could implode, or they could overperform like they have right now. The Fever suck. The Atlanta Dream suck. The Mystics suck. The Wings suck right now because of the Wings are historically bad because of their injuries, and the Sparks suck. Like there are 6 teams in this league that absolutely suck. So yeah, it is one of those things where it's like you can be terrible and still make the playoffs, and that would be the worst thing that could ever happen to the Fever. One, if they don't make the playoffs, they're most likely to get Paige. And Paige, just add Paige to this team, and they're near perfect lineup already. Like if you add Paige, you find a way of, I don't know, I don't mind Alyssa Smith. I don't know if you keep Kelsey Mitchell, but you have 2 max contract slots if you get Paige. Like you can try to find. Look, you can try to just go, cool, and Alyssa Smith's there. You know, Dejanay Carrington, you're available. Let's offer her a max. I know Neko Umake has gone to Seattle. Maybe she could be convinced, being like, you know what, maybe end your career. Look, you've got Leah Boston there. You've got Caitlin Clark. You have these young players around you. You know what, in 2 or 3 years, let's end your career on another ring. So maybe she might be able to be convinced to go. Because obviously that big 4 in Seattle's not working out too well. So she could be convinced. The best thing that could possibly happen to this team is they put up a good fight and don't make the playoffs. But the reality is, if you put up a good fight in this league, you're going to make the playoffs. And I think a losing streak could get Christy Sides fired. It could get Christy Sides fired coming out of the Olympic break. And they could be potentially in a position coming into the Olympic break where they're 3 or 4 games off the playoffs. And look, they're not going to catch up 3 or 4 games on these teams. Even if they beat all the teams around, they're not going to catch up 3 or 4 games. So if you are a fan of the Fever, I think you're not hoping that the team gives up. You're not hoping that Caitlin Clark gives up. You're kind of hoping that you just don't win. You don't win games. You're hoping that a lot of close games, maybe you lose. You're hoping Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston ball out, but you just come up short against better teams. Because at the end of the day, not making playoffs is going to be the best thing that ever happened to this franchise. As a Leeds fan, I know. I'm currently watching Leeds United play in the Championship. We were in a league where there was relegation, not in a better position. Jesse Marsh coached football like he was tanking for a draft pick, not a damn relegation. I've had to live with it. I've had to live with us missing out on some of the best coaches in the world, like Iriola and Arnie Slot, who would have taken the job had we fired him a month earlier and they were given a month to prepare. I missed out on that because an incompetent coach won a couple of games and the board had trust in them. That is what's happening right here. The Indiana Fever are winning despite an incompetent coach, and they're probably putting more and more trust in the inside incompetent coach. The quicker Christy Sides is out of this team, the better. Even if it means the team lose a couple more games, this team could make the playoffs this year, and I'm Christy Sides out. This team could make the playoffs, upset somebody in the first round and make the semifinals. I'm still Christy Sides out. She is completely incompetent.